Welcome to our TeachPassion Mini Camp. For those of you who have not been to one of our mini camps before, this is one of the ways that the TeachPassion Summit extends throughout the entire year. One of the points of the TeachPassion Summit is we want people to live their lives intentionally, to become the people that God has called them to be. And therefore, we do a talk every year called Intentional Living. The talk are some of the leadership habits that I've developed over the years that have helped me live an intentional life. And my goal is to help teach you these same habits. So we create this series of mini camps. We'll be doing these periodically throughout the year. If you go to our website, you'll have the next TeachPassion mini camps that are coming up. Our next ones that are coming up that I've heard a lot of feedback that you would like to attend is journaling. If you're not journaling, I think it's one of the most important habits that we as leaders can develop. One of the other things is our year-end review. That's one of the ones that people have never done. We're coming up shortly here in a couple weeks to the midpoint of the year. The midpoint of the year is not June 1st, it's not June 30th. So the midpoint's coming up, and this is where I'm going to start to do my 6-month mid-year review. So that's on a lot of people's minds, so we'd love to have you attend. But the point of these mini camps is it's not just for those that come to the TeachPassion Summit. It's not just a benefit we provide for my other company, Reciting Advisors, for our employees and clients. It's for anyone that wants growth and development. This is at no additional cost. Feel free to invite your family members and friends. We do these on location at our East office because we have an education center. That's where we're at right now. I know some of you are online right now. We make these available on Zoom, and we also keep the recordings. So if you know somebody that can be touched by this, if you want to go back through and review it, I'm going to be going through a packet tonight. If you're online and you didn't receive this packet, just send us an email. We'll send it out to you. If you're watching this recorded afterwards and you would like one of these packets, just reach out to us. We'd love to do that. It should also be available on our website, but if you can't find it, just reach out to it. But all of our mini camps have some sort of packet or activity because this isn't about a lecture. This is about doing life together. This is about installing these habits for you. So you might want to follow along with this. And it's not my entire slide deck, by the way. What's the point of having a slide deck? It is really just some highlights that are inside here, the parts that you really need to highlight as a executive summary, as the young kids would say, a too long, did not read TLDR, as a go back into my notes. But there's also space in there for you to write. If you do want a PDF as well, too, because if you're a remarkable person, anything like me, you don't want to do that. But when you get to the spaghetti brainstorm part of this, you're going to see that you're able to brainstorm inside of here. So there's pens and around it on the tables as well, too. There's also some notepads on the tables in case you want to free form think and not have that. So as we talk about these affirmation statements, I always refer to this, and what the slides will tell you is this is my leadership superpower. And the reason why I call it my superpower is I believe this, more than any of the other habits, has shaped me differently than other leaders. See, I know a lot of leaders that have the habit of journaling, and I've seen what it's done. I'd probably say of all the habits, the one that's the most important to me is journaling. But the affirmation statements has changed me. See, in life, I've been told I'm a good salesperson. And I reject that because I'm not a salesperson. And once people start working with me, they realize I'm not. See, the reason why I can sell, and if you do Strength Finders, 4 of my top 5 Strength Finders all fall into the influence. I am obsessed with leadership development because I believe, like John Maxwell, that the definition of leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. So I believe fundamentally that influence is extremely important. But you don't influence people by lying to them. You don't influence people by making them feel good or telling them what they want to hear, which is what traditional salespeople do. I actually violate just about every sales tactic that's out there. All these different closing tactics that are out there. I remember watching those videos when I first started in my profession, and they would teach us how to sell. I'm just not good at it. But the reason why I've been able to make sales, the reason why I was able to develop a company where we had to sell clients and I've been able to teach other people to do it, is my sales tactic or my closing tactic is confidence. Now, there's a big difference between confidence and arrogance. And I skirt that line all the time, and I'll be honest with you, I go over it sometimes. But I have an unshakable confidence. In my personal core values, I say resolute leadership. I lead with unwavering conviction. How did I get there? Did I come out of the womb that way? I would say that God, probably the way he built me, my DNA, I'm predisposed. But I would tell you, I was not this way. I was not an extremely confident kid. I was an arrogant kid, as some of my teachers would tell you. There were times where I was downright arrogant. I would study and study and study. I would know more than the teacher on a subject, and I'd let them know that. Not proud of it. But I didn't become confident until I was later in my life. And the way I became confident was when I started out in my career, I started a company called Lutner Financial Group. And it was run by the CEO, Earl I, who was an unbelievably gifted leader, but also a very eccentric leader. Like most leaders I know, he had many great qualities and many poor qualities. Earl's had an unbelievable impact on my life. And I can count some of the things that we do in our company because of what I learned from him. But if there's one thing that he did really well for me, was affirmation statements. My wife and I were having dinner at Italian restaurant's no longer there in Aspen Mall, and I hadn't seen Earl in years, and he was there with his wife. And I said, Amanda, I gotta go introduce you to Earl. This is the guy you've heard all these stories about. We walk over, introduce him, and I just want to tell him, I said, look, I want to thank you explicit for two things. Convincing me to read Think and Grow Rich every year of my life, and for teaching me the power of affirmation statements. He started laughing, and he's like, can you say it one more time in front of my wife? Because she made fun of him for all those years of doing affirmation statements, as of all my friends, in a loving wife manner, I would say. Because it seems so silly. I remember growing up, Stuart Smalley, for those of you who are younger in the room, this is a Saturday Night Live skit, you can Google it, but he's basically making fun of motivational speakers where you look in front of a mirror and you say, gosh darn it, I'm proud of you. And so he would do some famous figures, and there's a famous one where Michael Jordan, and he'd say, I'm okay, I'm good at basketball. People might say I'm bad, but I'm good. He's looking in the mirror and he's doing affirmation statements. So Earl taught these to us, and when I was there, he would make us write our affirmation statements on an index card. And we would write them, it was pretty much the shape of this, but a little bit different. And he would make us laminate the index cards. Now, I was young and out of college, and when I started there, it was pure commission. I didn't really have much money. And I had to go down to local Kinko's, and that's a store where you would go and get stuff printed. Now FedEx office, for those who are familiar with that. And I would get these laminated. And we had to carry our pockets. And he would walk around, and he would come up to you one day and he'd say, Greg, let me see your affirmation statements. You'd hand him the index cards, and he'd go, tell me one of them. So he wanted to see if you had them on you. Two, he would physically take them and make you recite them to see if you've been reciting them at least 3 times a day. And the reason why he wanted these in an index card, and by the way, I have stacks of these index cards. Over time, I would change and develop them, and I just kept the index cards. And full disclosure, I no longer use the index cards. I do use it on my Remarkable. For a while, I was using the Evernote on my phone. There's no right or wrong way to have these. I've seen a lot of people. I know a person used to work at our firm. When we were talking about affirmation statements, put them on the desktop of their computer. My desktop has 1 million files that give most people anxiety, so that's not a good place for me to store them. I've seen people put them on their phone, the backdrop of their phone. I reserve that for my wife and my daughter. That's what I want to look at when I look at my phone. There's many different ways to do this. I've actually seen one extreme thing when I was at a conference one time. Somebody was talking affirmation statements where the guy actually had them tattooed on his forearm. My affirmation statements change over time, so I don't think that's a great way to do it, but whatever works for you. There's no right or wrong. But I think what was genius about what Earl did and why we did it that way, and why for so many years I carried. And by the way, the reason why I stopped carrying in my pocket was because anyone knows me, I like to carry tons of stuff in my pockets. I refer to my suit jackets as my fancy cargo pants because I can carry more stuff. I have so much stuff in my jacket right now that I actually have to have my tailor, when they're making my jackets, make the pockets wider than they do for any other client. So that's why I stopped carrying them. But there was this beautiful thing of, you have an index card and it's laminated. When you sit down, it jabs you. And what Earl would say is, every time that jabs you, what you should do, it's like the string on a finger. It's just to remind you that you should be, at that point in time, doing an affirmation statement. So that's just a little bit about how I started doing these. It was a daily fundamental practice. And so what you can see here, I believe it's one of the foundational, and these are the things that we have our mini camps on. You have to start with your why. Develop your why. Discover your why. You have to create your mission statement, which is our last mini camp we just did. You have to work on cast your vision, which is what we did at TeachPassion Summit. You have to discover your core values. We just recently did a mini camp on that. One of the things that I am most fervent about. We have this on our website where you can go ahead and do a core values assessment. And your 3 roles in life, which is an upcoming mini camp. All of those are foundational that lead into this affirmation statement. See, these affirmation statements alone don't work. What they are is they are a way to put power into this. So in my faith tradition, we say faith without works is dead. That does not mean you have to have faith, should be works, to get saved. What it means is if you have true faith, you will just do works because you believe. And you believe so strongly you're going to want to do good works because that's what the message is. It's the same thing up here, that I believe fundamentally that roles are important, mission's important, vision's important, but without affirmation statements, they're not going to work. Affirmation statements are the daily practice that starts to turn these into reality. It's the daily practice that takes these from a wish list on a document, some written goals, some I would like to change, I would like to make decisions based upon my core values, to turn them into transforming your life and living that intentional life and being the person that God has called you to be. So what is an affirmation statement? I believe an affirmation statement is the gap. It's the gap between who you say you are and how you actually show up. See, I hear people all the time say, I'm a loving husband. But then they show up distracted at dinner. I fall in this trap. Just the other day, we were having dinner. And I wasn't even on a phone. My wife was talking, and just for some reason, I had a thought in my mind. And I was just, and she, are you even listening to me? I just snap out of it. Why was I distracted? I had too much going on in my life. I'm a disciplined leader, yet extremely reactive in meetings. One of the things I tell myself all the time is I want to be a disciplined leader. Discipline is sometimes challenging. And I'll tell you where it's challenging is sometimes I'm in a meeting and somebody's saying something that really frustrates me. I'm a man of faith. And I'm quiet about my faith. I don't talk to others about it. I don't practice it. I'm a generous giver, but I forgot to give away any of my money this month. God gave me all these blessings of money and I didn't share it with anyone. I'm a person who serves others first. That you served yourself today before anyone else when no one was looking. See, the gap between what you believe about yourself and how you behave, that's that space where confidence goes to die. Drift starts to happen, and trust, quite frankly, erodes. You're saying one thing over here, you're doing another. That's the definition of where trust erodes. I see it happen all the time. It happens slowly. It's a drift. Maybe you were doing those things really well. About 2 years ago, I was being what I would consider a healthy leader, and my 360 reviews told me I was being a healthy leader. My team did a 360 review on me and told me, Greg, you're no longer a healthy leader. I made a commitment, and I had to look each person in my team in the eyes and tell them, I'm committed in 2026 to becoming a healthy leader again. It creeps slowly. It started when I was busy. It started when I was distracted. It started when I was drifting away slowly. If a boat becomes untied at a dock and it starts to drift away, if you catch it, you can jump off that dock, you can swim. By the way, I had to do this 2 summers ago. We called it a free team building. We were out on the lake and a boat drifted away from the dock and we had to jump in and pull a boat. But all of a sudden, if you sleep throughout the night and that boat drifts so far out in the ocean that you can't swim that far, you can't bring it back to the dock. Why did it drift out so far? Because we weren't monitoring it. We let it go the whole night. What if we let that boat drift for days or weeks without a check-in? See, affirmation statements are the way to shift your mind. It's a way to keep that boat from drifting so far away. Because one thing I know is if you're anything like me, you're going to drift. That's just the way I believe fundamentally God designed us as human beings. By the way, all sin is God. We're drifting away from him. It's a separation of God and man. Sin is us drifting apart from God. That's why prayer and spending time with God brings us back closer to God. It's just what an affirmation statement is. So let's define an affirmation statement, because that Stuart Smalley skit is pretty good stuff, but it's not a true affirmation statement. See, where people get affirmation statements wrong is they try to make affirmation statements something extremely aspirational, and they don't use the right language. A good affirmation statement is an I am statement. Again, an I am statement about who you are. Affirmation statements have to be written down, have to be read out loud, and have to be shared with others for it to become true. I'm going to say that one more time. They have to be written down. They have to be read out loud. And they have to be shared with others for them to come true. You can't circumvent that formula. If the shortcut was the way, it wouldn't be called a shortcut, it'd be called the way. People, a lot of times, they'll write these down, that's great. But then they never read them. Or they read them internally. Do you know how weird it is the first time you read these things out loud? You want to feel awkward. Wait till tomorrow when you start reading these out loud to yourself. It feels awkward. I just the other day was on a park bench on spending time with God, and I got to the point where I started to read my affirmation statements, and I was literally found myself looking around. When I was praying to God with my eyes closed on the park bench, I didn't care who was around me. But the second I started to mutter these affirmation statements, I started to look around. People that I'm probably never going to see again in my life, how I was around them. It is awkward. It is weird. You do not have to do them in front of a mirror. I know there's a lot of people believe that. I've learned it's just you've got to write them down. You've got to read them out loud. Look, there's times when I'm in a crowded space. Maybe you do that index card, it pokes you in the leg, and you decide to read them, and you read them internally. That's okay, but you need to read them out loud. There's some psychology behind this. There's some actual science behind it. Just like a goal that's written down is more likely to be achieved, an affirmation statement read out loud, more likely to be achieved. And share with others. Why do you have to share with others? Because you're getting past that fear factor. The more and more you share with the others, the more and more you believe. Look, I can sugarcoat all you want, but all you're trying to do is brainwash yourself. That's the whole point of affirmation statements. You are literally trying to brainwash yourself until it becomes true. The greatest book ever written on this is Think and Grow Rich. Hence, I told Earl two things. He calls it autosuggestion in Think and Grow Rich, and he has a lot of great stories in there. It should be present tense, not someday, not aspirationally, but you as a person right now. This is so vitally important. Everyone, when they start writing these and they haven't gone through my training, all of a sudden, they're going to start to say, I want to pass the CFP exam. I am going to pass the CFP exam. That doesn't work. By the way, for those of you who don't know, I mentor students in the CFP exam and teach you CFP. That's why I use it as an example. I tell the same students, I passed the CFP exam is a little bit better. But how about I am a CFP professional? Start telling others, I'm passing the CFP exam in November. See how it's like present tense? I am a CFP professional. Not I'm going to be, not I'm going to pass the exam. That's who I am right now. I'm a loving father. I'm a loving husband. I run a $10 million firm that other advisors want to be part of because of our innovative strategies and our vision. Repeat it daily. I want to read in the morning, read at midday, read it at night. Repetition leads to retention, repetition leads to retention, repetition leads to retention. The more you read them, the more likely they are to become. You need to declare it openly. When you tell others, your brain starts to believe it. It's easy to lie to yourself. It's hard for your brain to lie to others. So I want to give you examples. For example, when I first heard these, Earl had these ones. By the way, these 4 statements are still the ones that I use every single day. I feel happy. I feel healthy. I feel terrific. I will touch someone's life today. Now, those are not futuristics. Those are for today. So I feel I am that. I am a happy person. I feel happy. Not I am going to be happy today. Not I'm going to be happy. I feel happy. I love these feel ones, right? This is a verb. Go right into this. I feel healthy. Not I am healthy. I feel healthy. I'm mentally tricking myself. I started reading these and I literally started getting sick less. I started being happier. I started going and finding ways to impact people's lives. Why does it work? As I mentioned earlier, Napoleon Hill calls it autosuggestion. Your mind absorbs what you repeat. And once your mind is so steeped in it, it starts to steer your behavior in that direction. There's a famous study called the White Bear Experiment. The gentleman's name is Daniel Wagner. And so a lot of times you just say the Freudian slip there, right? The White Bear Experiment. People will literally know what it is. Similar like the marshmallow experiment. So it's really, really popular. And he told the subjects, don't think of a white bear. And they couldn't think of anything else. They said, don't think of a white bear. See, what he was saying is whatever you focus on, your attention multiplies. The other way of saying this is don't stare at plumber's crack. Right? In plumber's crack, the guy comes in, he fixes the pipe, bends over, and his butt cheeks are hanging out. And you tell yourself not to stare because you don't want to see somebody's butt. But then your mind keeps going over and staring at it. The other famous one's yellow Jeep. I just said yellow Jeep, so you're going to notice a yellow Jeep on the way home today. How many yellow Jeeps are there? Not a lot. Probably didn't think of yellow Jeep for the last 2 months. But all of a sudden, you thought of them. One of the tricks we've done at TeachPassion Summit, for those of you at TeachPassion Summit this year, I told you to look around the room, see everything you see, close your eyes and tell me something was red. And most people can't tell me something was red. Then I say, all right, look around the room now for something that's red and tell me how many things you can count. Now you're aware, you're like, oh, boom, 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 boom. They count out 4 or 5 different things that are red. The third part of why this works is compounding identity. One little reading does very little. So many people, when I'm running them through this, they're just like, I'm just going to do this one time. I'm going to start this. Greg, he made a pretty compelling case. I've seen Greg's confidence. He tells us where it's come from. I want to be confident. And they do it like once or twice. They're like, it doesn't work. It's the 1,000 readings that continuously reshapes who you are. I've been told this, you're bullheaded. I can't change your mind. When it comes to things I do affirmation statements around, it's true. It's not just affirmation statements. I read my core values every day. I read my company's vision tracker and organizer tool every day. I read my mission statements. They come off my lips. They become part of my words. I read the Bible every day of my life. I study the Bible every day of my life. People say, how do you know how much the Bible says? Because I study it every day. It starts to leak in to my psychology. I start to use Bible phrases and rubrics from the Bible without even realize it. Because it's so steeped in me. That's what these affirmation statements do to you. If you're not a confident public speaker and you get scared to go up there, try this for a year. 3 times a day, tell me you're not a confident public speaker. It just works. I'm having trouble with my clicker today. Need better technology here. I don't know who pays for this equipment here. So there's 3 different levels of strengths. And this should be in your packet there as well too. This is one of the ones I'm going to highlight. So when people first start this, they start extremely weak. They say, I would like to be early. By the way, I put this one as the first one because if anyone here knows anything about me, I'm late for everything. I was actually late. I started this on time tonight, but I was late showing up for this. I was coming from another office and was running late. I would like to be early is a very weak statement. A better one is I am early. Okay, now we're great. I'd like to be early. I am early. We're doing a I am statement. But here's the strongest. How about I am early for everything because being late is disrespectful. By the way, my actual one is I'm on time for all meetings because it is rude and disrespectful not to be. Now, as I've been late for just about everyone in here's meetings, I'm rude and disrespectful to you. I know that. I'm trying to get better at it. Imagine where I'd be if I didn't read myself this every single day. People don't realize I hate being late. It's just a habit I have that I've tried to break. I want to be a financial planner. I am a financial planner versus I'm a financial planner whose clients trust them with their lives. These are all ones I read, by the way. Someday I'll pass the CFP exam. I am past the CFP exam versus I am passing the CFP exam on July 15th. See, these good ones that are future tense, they're wishes, your mind here's not yet. The better ones, the I ams, it's present tense. You're starting to shift your identity. When we get to the better ones, it's identify who you are, you get your identity with specificity around it. It's not just I'm a financial planner. I'm an excellent financial planner whose clients trust me and have a reason or a date behind it. I am early for all meetings because it is rude and disrespectful to others when I don't show up on time. The 3 big mistakes that I see out there, having guided leaders through this for over years. But I've been doing this probably going on 20 years now that I've been running leaders through how to do affirmation statements. Shout it from the mountaintops. And I think this is the biggest mistake people make at first. They start with too many. They tend to draft 25 statements in one day because you're like, I want to fix this. Well, I want to start eating better. I want to start getting up earlier. I want to start doing this. I want to start this. It's the same problem with goals. By the way, on your sheet there, we're going to go through in a second. I call it spaghetti. Write down 25 and then pick 3. It is better to do one of these continuously for a year than to do 20 of these continuously for 30 days. See, what ends up happening is you think you can run through 25 affirmation statements and you write out 25 and it takes you 35 seconds to read through them all out loud. And you say that's no problem, but try doing it. Try doing it consistently. It's like somebody that hasn't been to the gym, and all of a sudden, day one, they go to the gym 5 days a week. It just doesn't work that way. You got to gradually get here. So that's the first thing. The second problem I see when leaders start to try this out and they say it doesn't work, that's because they read them silently. Just like me, they're on that park bench, they're embarrassed by it. But I believe with my whole heart, if you read them out loud, they will work. The third part is they keep them private. Listen, if your affirmation statement is that embarrassing that you can't read it out loud, then you probably should think about either where you're currently at in life or who you want to become. I shared this blog I did about affirmation statements with one of my good friends. He sent me a message on social media, saw the blog. He said, Greg, did I just read in your affirmation statements blog that you wrote about being on time? Like, is that serious? And I said, yeah, because I actually specifically picked that one because that is something I'm trying to work on my entire life. I can't figure out a way to get better at it. But I genuinely don't want to be late. I genuinely think it's disrespectful. Do I fix it? No, I mean, I'm not perfect. Don't keep it under a bush. Let your light shine. I'm telling you, these 3 reasons are why almost every leader that I've run it through fails. They're just like, Greg, I bought it. I don't need to do it that way. No, you need to do it that way. So there's 4 amplifiers that I want to pound in your head. These are the 3 reasons why people get it wrong. Let's talk about the 4 amplifiers of why people get it right. If my clicker will work today. There we go. First one is write it down. This should be right in your packet. I believe it's on page 2. It's page 3 here. Okay. I have the 3 ways to write it, the present tense, repeat it daily, declare it openly. But I have this down here, so you don't have to write it down. But if you're anything like me, it might help to write it down or circle it. But write them down, whether it's an index card, a notebook app, whatever is durable, whatever you see often. Why did I switch to my remarkable? Because my wife refers to my remarkable as my emotional support dog. My daily prayers are in here. When I'm reading the Bible daily in here, all my Bible notes are in here. My journal's in here. It's what Gino Wickman would call my one source of truth. So if this is where I'm going to be at all day, by the way, my affirmation statements are actually my prayer journal, because my routine is I pray through my prayer journal, and then I get to the end of my prayer journal, and then it literally has my affirmation statements, and then it has my personal mission, my personal core values, my personal vision statement, my family mission statement, my family core values, and my family vision. It actually has my wife's core values, which she just came up with them this year. I'm so proud of her that I read her core values every day. I'm trying to get to make her feel more heard, more seen, fully known, fully loved, and fully challenged. And it's obviously a work in progress, she'll tell you, as I try to work to become the loving husband and father that I say in my affirmation statements. So that goes to my company ones and my company VTOs, all in that, and I read it there. So it's just, it makes it easier. I tell my financial planning clients all the time, and all my years of financial planning, I've learned there's 2 keys of financial planning. It's simplification and automation. That's not like financial planning, that's everything in life. Like if you want to achieve your goals, simplify them and automate them. Right? We all are not great at trying to overcome our habit loops. I don't want to try to say I have stronger willpower. Let's just remove willpower from it. So again, wherever you're going to see it off, so write them down, read them out loud, morning, midday, noon. In my faith tradition, we have the hours of the office. In many faith traditions, they have that. So you read your prayers in the morning, read them in the afternoon. There's actually multiple hours, but most people do 3 hours of prayer if you're not a monk. Your voice matters. You have to read them out loud. Minimum of 3 times a day, and share them with others. If you haven't noticed, I'm a little bit repetitive. If you're here, it's because you've come to TeachPassion. Some of you have heard me speak. Repetition leads to retention. If I have slides that say the same thing multiple times, what does that tell you? That tells you they're the key. When I'm teaching all the time, I always say, if I say it 3 times, that means it's going to be on a quiz. And so sometimes I'll say, like, repetition leads to retention. Then I'll say repetition leads to retention. I'll say repetition leads to retention. Why? Because I want them to catch on to that. So here's our starting point. We want to start with 3, not 10, not 25, 3. My goal for you today, when you walk out of this room in about 20 minutes, is that you have 3. And I believe you should pick one from each of these 3 categories. Who I am, the identity that matters the most to you right now. How I live, a daily habit you want to lock in. Maybe it's a rising time, a prayer time, fitness level, a focus. This is going to be based upon your goals. That's why I started at the beginning and say it works down these 3. And what I want to build, an outcome moving forward. Maybe the career I want, the family I want, how I want to manage my finances, the ministry impact I want to have. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to do that for 1 month. And if you get through 3 of them for 1 month, then you can add a 4th one. And then if you go another 30 days, add a 5th one. You don't need to be up to my level where I'm at. I've been compounding these for years. There's a reason why I can read as many as I read in a day. Don't start there. Somebody told me they found out how many books I read a year, and they found out how many books I've read over my lifetime, which I'm getting close to for a lifetime accumulation. And obviously, I never counted all the books I've read, but the books that I've counted and where I'm at, I'm close to over 700 books I've read. And they want to catch up with me. Well, I'm 42 years old. I started reading books like this when I was very young. So just don't try to look at the gap between me and you. Let's look at the gain. Don't look at how many affirmation statements I read. Greg, this only works. No, when I started out, it was very few that I used. So these are some of mine today. Who I am. I'm a passionate leader who leads with unwavering conviction. Does it sound like me? I've been reading this one, by the way. This one has been up here, I want to say, probably since the first ones I made. I mean, this is who I am. I'm extremely passionate. My core values are around this, becoming core values. I lead with unwavering conviction. I'm a loving husband and father. I am one that baptized. God has special plans for me and for my business. Have you ever heard me say that God has special plans for me? God has special plans for my business, those of you know me. Again, this is one of the ones I get from Earl. I will touch someone's life today. How I live. I rise at 4 a.m. every day with vigor. Now, these are, by the way, they're a little bit shorter because I've kind of catch myself as I say these because I'm so used to saying them. The way I actually say this, I rise at 4 a.m. every day and start each day with vigor and with joy that God put me here on this earth. So just used to say it the full way, but I kind of truncate these down for a slide. Do I wake up at 4 a.m. every day? I do not. I did at one point. I actually have up on my mirror, my wife hates it, it says 4AC, stands for 4 a.m. Club, because I read the book 5 a.m. Club and said, well, in like Tim Tebow's book, he said, well, 10 push-ups are good, 11's better, right? So I'm like, oh, people get up at 5, I'm gonna get up at 4. I don't. Currently right now, I'm between 5 and 5:30. But I tell myself this mentally so that 4 a.m. doesn't seem far away. I'm early for everything because it's rude and disrespectful not to be. I work out daily and prioritize working out. Right now, I'm going through a rib bruise and a foot problem, and I'm not working out right now because I got in a bicycle accident. But I tell myself this still every day. I work daily and I prioritize working out. Key things, not only I do it daily, but I prioritize it above other things. I pray daily over my clients, my teammates, my family, my friends. I used to not do that, by the way. Shouldn't say I used to. I used to do that regularly. I didn't do it every single day. Now I do it daily. Why? Because I wrote this word daily up here, and it literally changed my habit. I feel happy, I feel healthy, terrific. I told you I went on it today. I run Tongue Advisors, a $10 million revenue firm. Tongue Advisors is a $2.5 million revenue firm. Our vision is the 412 vision to get to 10 million in revenue. So I tell myself that every day that I run a $10 million firm. Actually, you can't make this up. I got this from a leader a while back. We were a client of theirs, and they were looking at what all their clients shared in common. And all their clients were at least a $5 million company. And they said there was one great client, I should say they were looking at great clients, one great client that was not a $5 million company. And they went to their consultant, they go, oh, I know Greg Fuhrer. He thinks he runs a $10 million firm. This guy had no idea I read that every day. He's like, he genuinely in his head runs his firm like it's a $10 million firm. He makes decisions based upon being a $10 million firm. Why? Because I read it to myself every single day. I make $1 million a year in my office, in my home. I have a $1 million check framed. It says in October of 2032 is the date on it. It's written from our corporate company. I actually took it out of our corporate checkbook, made payable to me on that date. And it says for my salary in 1 year. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but I have confidence I am. God willing. I just tell myself this every day. This is what I want to build. I mentor other financial advisors and men. A big part of my life. I feel that God called me to be a father of leaders. I'm a team builder. By the way, I didn't put all mine up here. I actually do read more than this up there. One of the ones that people probably heard come out of my tips of my tongue, excuse me, heard me out of my lips or heard it roll off the tip of my tongue, is that Tongue Advisors has a compelling vision for the future, and other financial planners want to join and be part of our team. Right? Again, that's just another one I say all the time where I want to build. I just wanted to give you an idea of the practice to let you know this isn't somebody just read this in a textbook somewhere. I used to be a really poor student in high school and college because I had this attitude that if a teacher didn't run a business, they shouldn't teach me about business. I don't want them to be the best business owner. I don't want them to be the, Nolan Ryan isn't a pitching coach. Michael Jordan isn't a basketball coach. But the great coaches played the sport. So I just want you to know that I'm in the trenches. This is something I'm not telling you to do out of, I think this might help you. This is based upon my experiences. So here's our challenge today. I call it the 30-day challenge. I've been doing this for over a decade. I challenge you to do affirmation statements for 30 days. At least one affirmation. You don't have to do 3. I'm telling you, no more than 3. One affirmation, 3 times a day, out loud. And here's my promise. I used to make this other promise I no longer do. I used to tell people you can come back and punch me in the face. And that was funny when it was my friends. Now I do this in groups full of leaders like yourself. I don't say it that way. If you come back to me at the end of 30 days and you give it the college try, and you look me in the eyes and you say it didn't work, I will never talk about affirmation statements to a group of leaders ever again. 19 years. And nobody's ever come back to me. Now, I've had people come back to me and say, it didn't work because they didn't do it. It happens a lot. And give yourself some grace, right? I run leaders through the Bible in a year, and I just was having cigars and bourbon with one of the leaders that's going through this current iteration of go through the Bible in a year. And he goes, I got to admit something. So what's that? He goes, I'm a little bit behind. And he said, I'm actually a book behind. I'm like, that's okay. You know what? Just skip that book. Let's get through it. Give yourself some grace. What's the point? The point is about working through it together. It's about spending time in God's word. So, hey, this is what we're going to do is we're going to do the work together. That's why I gave you a book. So if you guys all want to open up your notebooks here, for those you're online, go ahead and if you don't have this, you can kind of follow through what we're doing. It's just an easy way to do it. But what we're going to do here is we're going to brainstorm. So we're going to take 5 minutes here. And I want you to throw everything on a page. I want you to identify habits, outcomes that we're going to narrow down. And we're going to put these, whoops, helps if I do my slide. There we go. Finally, my clicker's working there. So we're going to spaghetti these. We'll write down everything that comes to mind, habits, outcomes. Don't filter it. And what you're going to see for those of you that don't have the packet online, or hopefully the ones that you signed up that aren't watching this on rerun, have this in front of you, but it's who I am, how I live, and what I build are the 3 areas. So again, just spaghetti this, write down as much, don't stop yourself. This is about brainstorming. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes starting now. All right, looks like most of you in the room are already done. I said 5 minutes. We're actually not at 5 minutes. So I'm gonna give it about another minute or so for those that are online. Um, so we'll finish up a little bit earlier than the 5 minutes, at least for those that are online to awesome. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one here. If you need more time, if you're online and you haven't got done, looks like everyone in the room is finished, just put it to the side. You can do it right after this call. By the way, like a hack that I tell people all the time, when I'm on like some type of leadership call, I'm in a conference. What do? You spend like an hour getting in something, you have these great ideas, and you give yourself no space afterwards. Give yourself space if you're going to do something like this. I know there's times where you have to go back to back. I feel like I've been there for about a month. I've had to have back to back meetings, but give yourself time to do extra work. So the next one here is we're going to go ahead and refine. So again, if you have the packet at home, I've brought this in here from 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to want to pick one from each one of these columns: who I am, how I live, to what I build. And we're going to go ahead and put this in here from each one. And so what you're going to do is you're just going to go on that list and just circle one, right? Maybe you have bad handwriting like me, but just circle one from each one of those columns. And we're going to go ahead and put it here. I just write a weak one. By the way, if you're just the type of person that's so gifted with writing that you can just right off the bat, just go ahead and write a strong one, you don't need to use the weak, better, and strongest. But I would encourage you to write your first one in weak and then challenge yourself. Another thing you could do, by the way, if you have on your phones, use ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or some type of artificial intelligence and say, I'm in an affirmation statement class and I'm working on these affirmation statements. Can you help me make these stronger? And then ask why, by the way. But well, that's what we're going to do. I have 10 minutes for this because this is typically a lot longer. There's a famous Mark Twain saying, said I would have wrote a short letter if I only had a little more time. I was running a group through another thing about a month ago, and then one lady was like, man, I can't score you as a high facilitator because your times are all wrong. And so these times are different. I've been in groups where the majority of the room needed 10 minutes. I've been in other groups where the majority of the room needs 5 minutes. I'm not going to waste time to waste time. So if I see you guys are all done a little bit early, we're going to do this in 7 minutes. So these times are based upon other groups that I've run through doing this. But I'd much rather say we need an hour to do the work and get it done in 50 minutes than tell you that we need an hour and we do it in an hour and a half. So I'm going to give you roughly 10 minutes starting now. Again, we might finish a little bit early if everyone gets that done. But from my experience, this has been the part that spaghetti's easy, refining's hard. All right, it's looking like the majority of you guys are done. I'm going to give it a little bit, just a little bit more here to kind of wrap it up. If you have a little bit of thought. And by the way, if there's some of you that are online doing this, you just pause. If you're listening to a recording, for those of you who are online live, I can't see what you're doing. So just put it as, I'm going to do this afterwards. Like, you don't have to get this done. If you got one done, that's more progress you're walking out than you have when you walked in. For those of you that maybe struggled, maybe you didn't do this with your full college effort, go through, do this some other day, right? Like, maybe your brain's just not in it. Give yourself some grace. So the next part is, if you want to finalize it, you don't have to take it from this piece of paper, but if you're anything like me, part of why I put this next page on here is just the three, so you can write it crystal clear. We're not going to do that for sake of time right now. What we are going to do, and for those who are online, I don't think you necessarily be here for this, but we're going to read the three out loud to somebody next to you. So we're going to partner up, and I know it's going to make everyone feel really uncomfortable. And trust me, I'm going to come over and I'm going to walk and do this with a few of you. But for those of you who are online, you don't need to sit here and watch while we in the room are going through that. And that's why we'd love to have you come for our next huddle here in person. And the more and more we be in person, I believe where two or more gather, God is there in our midst. But I also understand that life gets in the way. And I understand being East Hills of Pittsburgh is not great for everyone. So for those in the room, please bear with me here as I skip ahead just to give the closing, and then we're going to work on that. And then I encourage you that are at home to do the same, to go through this out loud. And by the way, if you're at home and you have a spouse or children, or dogs work, by the way, this is keeping my Facebook memories the other day, but I used to, with our old dog, I would take what's called a soup butler. It's a thing I had my suits on, use as a pulpit, and I would practice my sermons on my old dog. And I used to say, my dog has probably heard more sermons than most people in their lives. So God rest her soul that she had to listen to that many sermons. But you'll see right here, the other part of this packet is this 30-day challenge. So what I did was I created here just a 30-day challenge so you can mark this. So if this is your one source of truth, this is the thing you're going to put on your mantle or put wherever, and you have a better way of doing it. So there's habit tracker apps are really good for this. There's, put this in Evernote. Again, Remarkable, you don't have to use this. If you want a PDF version of this to put on your Remarkable, go ahead and send us that information. I did include in here my affirmation statements, just so you can have an idea that a lot of times is seeing what it is. I talked to you here about how that I do, what a practice that I do, affirmation statements, the creed, the 10 commandments, the blessing, scripture. So I just I put that in there for those of you that don't have this. Please reach out to us. We'll get it over to you. But I think once you have it. So here's your turn. Here's your goal, is you're going to lock in your three. You're going to read them tomorrow morning. You're going to share with one person this week. And for those in your room, you're going to say, well, I already shared with one person. Share with one person outside this room. And you're going to want to take that 30-day challenge. Again, I can't tell you enough. If you thought it was worth your time to come here, and you thought it was worth your time to hear about this, you need to take the next step. If you love this content, and you found that the core values have been helpful for you, some of the people in this room I've seen come time and time again, you felt the Teach Passion Summit was helpful, you felt that you're making transformation change that you've been wanting to make, do me one favor, tell others about it. Imagine what Pittsburgh would be like if we got leaders reading affirmation statements every day. If they started making decisions with their core values. If they didn't just talk about wishes, they set goals, put them in writing, and were held accountable like we do in our Teach Passion huddle calls each month. People need transformation and change now more than ever in this age of AI. We need human connection. People long for it. So if you know anyone be valuable, just do me a favor. When we send you that email, thank you for coming here and give you a recap and give you a link to this.